a different thing.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to call the school committee's order to order on March 1st, 2023. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like to read the Douglas Public Schools mission statement. The Douglas Public Schools offer diverse learning experiences that meet the academic, social, physical, and emotional needs of all of our students. We provide a safe, supportive, and challenging learning environment in which students may achieve academic success and personal growth. Decisions are made in the best interest of our students. Next, I'd like to call up the student representative, which is going to be the first grade, or is that?
Well, they're part of, we'll call them up now. I'm sure they'll be happy to get started soon.
No? Cindy, you want to wait?
Ms. Sosha's going to do that first. So the first part of our presentation for tonight is on primary school students, and Mrs. Sosha talking a little bit about ST Math. ST Math is a program that our kindergarten through grade 5 students do. Ms. Sosha is going to give an overview of it, and then we have 3 first graders here to present. A big thank you to the 2 teachers who came out tonight. I know there was a lot of prep work behind the scenes, to the families who also pushed bedtime a little bit for the kids to come out and do this. So we will start with Ms. Sosha and her presentation on ST Math.
I don't think
we see the
Gigi
kids.
wants to stand. So a little bit about ST Math. So this has been the buzzword at the primary for a few years now. We had piloted, I think, 3 years ago, so we're into it a little bit here. So one of the first things that I thought I would throw out to you is, how did you feel about math when you were a student, when you were in school? I already saw the head shaking, and that's usually, the response, like, I didn't like math. Well, we don't want our kids not to like math. We want it to be fun, we want it to be engaging, and that's why we're using this as part of our math program. It is not the core program, we use the Go Math, but this is a supplement to it. So what exactly is ST Math? It is founded and created by Mind Research Institute, and they have joined forces with the 1-8 Foundation, the Mass STEM Hub. All of these are the same people that are involved with Project Lead the Way. So then Department of Education got involved, and they partnered with them, and they're providing some support to get school districts involved with ST Math as well. So it's all visual, there's no language to it. It's all based on challenging, problem-solving puzzles that they go through this little journey, and I don't want to give away too much because I want our little mathematicians to explain that to you. So the ST means spatial temporal reasoning, which means it looks something like, a puzzle like you see our friend Gigi up there, and it's manipulating things, the space and the time, and that's what the ST stands for. It's reasoning. The next slide, I really liked their quote from the Mind Research. This is the new buzzword in math, productive struggle. If we never challenge anyone, they're not going to rise to the occasion. If everything's smooth sailing, then they just kind of keep even keeled. So that's the big push right now. Students talking about math strategies, talking to each other. It's that discourse of conversation, more confidence, and just really getting them to think instead. It's trial and error. It's just like a STEM project. You're building something. Does it work? Go back and try it again. So it's the same idea. It is an application process, so we do have to apply, and if we're accepted, the Mind Research will fund 50%, and now the Department of Education has funded the other 50. I don't know how long that will last, but we just keep putting in for it. The total cost is $7,000 per year per school, and they have provided us with some professional development that has been helpful. So who is this Gigi that we all talk about? We had a visit from Gigi on Valentine's Day, the big Gigi, and we surprised everybody with that one. So Gigi is the penguin that goes out on the journey with all of the puzzles. And again, I'm not going to give away the secrets, but Gigi is a big part of the program, and it kind of motivates the kids. And I don't know if they know this, but Gigi means, the name Gigi means little chicken in Mandarin. So there. So you can go back and tell your friends that Gigi's name means little chicken. The next two slides I thought were crucial to point out, because it's all visual and no words, no language. People had said, oh, it's too hard. Oh, well, the kids can't do it. Well, this is a comparison, and it's back 2014 to 2016, and it's before using ST Math would be the bottom. If you have a black and white copy, you won't be able to tell the difference, but the bottom is before using ST Math, and the top one is after. So it's the percent of students meeting or exceeding the standards. So you can see all of our groups, our English learners, we have a couple English learners in the primary right now. They are just killing this program. They are so good at it because it's no language. They don't have to worry about it. So they are loving it.
Impressive.
Special education, you can see the growth there. Gifted, you can see, I mean, they're way up there already, but there's still growth, which is nice. It still can challenge them because they can go to the next level. The teachers can assign them what standards they want them to complete. They can pick certain skills that they wanted if they needed more support on what they're talking about in the classroom. And what the teachers have been saying is they're coming across concepts that are new, and the kids are saying, we know how to do that already. They didn't know it was called subtraction, but they already knew how to do it because they were doing it on ST Math. So it's been really beneficial. Every week we get reports. So the primary school right now is at 86%. That is our target for May. So we're already there. So there's no doubt we're going to hit 100%. Along with that report, I get a breakdown of every class, how many minutes they're using. We just added preschool to this program this year. And it's a little tricky with them because if they come 5 days, they get more access to it than someone who comes 2 days or 3 days, but they are using it. So it's working. Kindergarten and grade 1, they have to do 60 minutes a week. And then from there, it's 90 minutes, grades 2 through 5. So I can get a breakdown, I can click on their classroom, I can pick a child in their classroom, and the teachers can do the same thing. It'll show if a child has been on a puzzle and has tried 20 times and they're stuck. So then the teacher can make sure they can address that and give them assistance. So just in Massachusetts, we have 100,000 students using ST Math, 245 schools, and 65 districts. So it's not a new thing, and it's used all over. And then just some of the statistics, 92% of the teachers believe that it impacts the culture of math learning in their classroom positively. Student attitudes are increased by using the math. You don't hear kids saying, I can't do math, I'm not good at it anymore, because they can figure it out. They are good at it. They're better at it than we are. So that's funny. Other benefits of the ST Math would be that it's personalized for each student, so they can go on their own journey, it's called. Teachers can, I said, assign things for them. It's aligned to our standards, so if the teacher wanted a certain standard, they can just have the students do that. And then the best benefit of all is that it's for all students. So when we say all means all, this is for everyone. And it has proven to be better test scores, better problem-solving strategies, student confidence has risen in math, and then their student discourse. When you hear first graders talking to each other about how to solve a problem, you'd be amazed, because they're using the right verbiage and the vocabulary. So the students love it, and that's probably the best part right there. It's motivating and engaging. So before we switch over, do you have any questions on the program itself? I know I kind of flew through that because I want to get to the best part tonight. All right, so we have our 3 mathematicians from first grade with their teachers. We have Mrs. Jeddick and Mrs. Wheeler. Thank you so much for coming tonight. We have Liam King We have Owen Rafter and we have Charlie Ferreira. So would you come up? And they're going to demonstrate some of the puzzles for you.
Chicken. Cha-chow. 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 My name is Owen Rafter, and I am in the first grade, and I'm going to show you how to play the bouncing shoes. Okay. There's 4 shoes, and there's only 2 legs on each animal.
So what do you need to do?
I need to put 2 ostriches, and then it makes the whole.
And why did you
4.
choose 2?
Because 2 plus 2 equals 4.
And what happens when you get it right, Owen?
You get puzzle.
You keep adding.
Daddy said
It goes ding and Gigi goes across, right? Right, you want to do another one?
My goodness.
Go ahead.
So say, what are you doing? Say, I'm counting the feet.
I am counting the feet to see how many the shoes. There's 12 shoes.
So how many dots will you need to fill those shoes?
So 4 plus 4 is 8, and then 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11.
Okay. So you do.
Oh no. Oh no. Oh no.
So that's what happens when we don't get it right, right?
That's what happens when you do not get it right.
That's okay.
Okay, new plan. Now you got it right. He was going back on the first level because he died twice. He already started with a lost health. Ooh. There's 6 shoes, and I know 3 plus 3 is 6. So we need 2 from each 6.
Good job.
Oh,
Thank you.
9 shoes. That is 10.
Okay, so how many shoes do you have?
8. Ooh.
Good job, honey. Nice job.
Nice job.
Owen, what a great job. Do you like this?
Yeah.
Yeah, it looks like a lot of fun.
Morning. Okay, Liam. The morning. It's hard to do. Oh, Liam, then why'd you choose it?
Where's the sleeve?
Because it helps me.
Okay, ready. So go ahead and start.
Hello, my name is Liam, and today I'm going to show you how to play tugboat.
Tell them the goal. What's the goal of it?
The goal is to make Gigi go across the bridge.
And how do you get Gigi to go across the bridge? What's the goal?
You have to have the same amount of numbers on each side. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So there's 8 on each side. So stop.
Can you show them what you're doing to solve it? How are you solving it? What are you
I'm
using?
solving it with a dry erase marker. And they can't even see me. Cool. 10, 6, 7, 8, and 10. I have 8 on one side and 10 on the other. So minus 1 equals 8. Wait, minus 1's 9, plus 1's 9. I want to go to the part where the pirate ship comes.
You don't want me.
Wait. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Wait, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 6 and 6, 7 and 7. Wait, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 1, 2, 3, 4. Wait, so 9 and 7. Wait. Oh, Leo. What? You lost. Well, at least I'm still on the same one.
And what did you want to show them, and what happens?
So in one of them, if you get it correct, the pirate ship comes in, Gigi hops in.
Wow.
Wait.
Thank you, Liam. I'm going to shut you down, okay?
Oh, Liam, I see what you're doing. Oh, Liam, what are you doing, bad buddy? What? Oh, you just want to get to the ship. Yes.
Well, we'll let Charlie have a turn to share, okay?
Too bad. This is Leo. Okay, Charlie, you're on TV now.
Thank you, Liam.
Thank you.
And I'm gonna. Hello, my name's Charlie, and I'm in first grade, and I'm gonna be showing you how to do measurement double. Charlie,
Ooh.
I can't find you. What are you doing? To get in the right order, biggest to smallest.
And what does that do?
Big Gigi go into the hole.
So that's the goal, right? Okay, what do you do here?
You make Gigi go into the hole.
And how did you order them?
Order.
What's this one?
Biggest to smallest.
Biggest to smallest, or tallest to shortest.
And how did you know?
Because if it was the smallest first, it would go this way.
Can you show us what that looks like?
What? That sounded weird. Charlie, we can see what you're doing. I want your finger. Pirate ship.
Perfect.
And this is how you lose.
This is how you lose.
This is how you lose? All right, I'm ready.
Oh, Charlie. I tried to lose. I know, I tried to lose.
You did, you told us. You said, this is how you lose.
Now I lost.
So can you tell us a strategy
I'm going to play a
you
different
use?
level.
Each one of you tell us one strategy that you use when you're doing these puzzles. You use scrap paper. Liam, what do you do for strategy?
120 chart.
You have a chart. Can you hold it up?
Nice.
And Charlie, what do you do for strategy?
Sometimes I draw lines to see how long it is. No,
You
there's
draw lines
no
on
way.
the screen?
See
Okay.
how long it is.
Mm-hmm. And what can you do if you have a friend that's stuck?
help them? Go over and help them.
Don't touch the screen.
Or make them put one of these pads on so you can touch their screen without actually touching their screen.
Okay. All right. All right, anyone have a question for mathematicians? Oh, what do you like about ST Math?
The puzzles. It's fun, you learn, and yeah. That's all.
It's fun, you learn. What about Charlie? What do you like?
I like the level where Gigi turns into a monkey.
Gigi turns into a monkey?
He turns into a monkey. Little chicken. Gigi always turns into a monkey. Little chicken.
Okay.
Oh.
Have the three of you stand up.
Little chicken.
In front of everybody, so we can see your faces. Come stand over here.
You guys did a great job. Thank you.
Okay, so everyone can see your face. So you are officially now a Gigi helper. Okay?
Wow.
You get a lanyard that says Gigi helper. Okay? And the real Gigi's on there. It's not like the Gigi on your shirt.
Miss
All
Socia,
right?
when you're done, can you have them turn?
And here's ST Math pencil and a spirit stick. Fancy.
Fancy.
So they can take pictures.
Yeah.
Do the teachers want to get into this too? Because it's going to go right back to your school. I'm just taking it for you to use. Come on.
One with the kids and then with you guys behind.
You guys did such a great
You did
job.
an awesome
I loved
job.
it.
Amazing.
Very animated with us.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
I don't get it. Me neither.
Thank you guys for coming.
Thank you for
Thank you so
coming.
much. Thank you to the families, too. We know it's late. And thank you to the two teachers who put this together,
Yes,
working with
thank
Ms.
you.
Socia. I know,
Thank you.
I know it was a little bit anxiety provoking getting it set up, so thank you for staying out late just a little.
Thank you so
I know.
Thank you.
So again, this is, as Cindy said, it's a pre-K to 5 program, so kids are using, it goes up in scale in time from, I think, 30 minutes up to 90 minutes. And like, you looked at some of those problems and you can see the kids some saying, what do I have to do to solve this? And I know I've been inside classrooms, especially when I get to like the 4th and 5th grade, and I look at the problems like, I have no clue what to do. And it takes some time to figure it out as to what they're looking for. But kids are learning that trial and error, and they're doing it. It was pretty cool. I think you saw it over there. Some of the strategies that Ms. Socia and the teachers came up by putting that sleeve on top of the iPad and giving the kids a dry erase marker to actually write on the iPad to do some problem solving instead of scrap paper. So a lot of good things come from that. So thank you, Ms. Socia, for doing that. Any other questions on ST Math?
No, I think it's paying. You can just see how much they've improved. That's huge.
And their confidence to come and do that for us. like,
Yes.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah, 6 years old.
6 years old? 6?
6 years old.
6 or 7?
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yes.
It's also great that they're not dreading math, which is kind of what we all had instilled in us. So that's great.
When they walk in every morning, that's what they go to is ST Math.
Absolutely.
First grade anyway.
Very nice.
Want to be public comment before we dive into?
Sure. Is anyone here for public comment? Seeing that there is none, we can go back to our regular schedule.
All right, so next on the agenda, so first on the agenda was the primary school and ST Math. Next is the CPAC, their annual update to the school committee. I have the clicker, so I'll just...
Thank you. Hi, everybody. We are here from the CPAC, and we're representing the conversations that we've heard, the emails that we've heard, the discussions we've heard from our families throughout this year. So we were here, I believe it was September, October-ish, and due to some concerns and due to some things that the committee wanted to hear more about, we had scheduled a time to come here mid-year and just take a look at what progress has been made, what things still need to happen, as well as kind of resurvey the families and kind of say, okay, now where are we at? Under, we have a whole new SPED leadership that is here this year, so we've passed the 100 days of school, right? So we've made it through Dr. Merrick's 100-day plan. So kind of just quick snapshot of what we've done so far. And those kids are such a tough act to follow. We did schedule a meet and greet with the special education staff this year. In the past, that's been something that's been really well attended by special ed staff. This year really wasn't, but we did have an opportunity. Dr. Merrick was there. Our coordinators popped on for a little bit. We didn't have a whole lot of time for a lot of the families to meet some of the newer staff and some of the existing staff, which was a little bit disappointing to some of our families. Then Dr. Vieira came and he went over kind of the MCAS data for last year and his blueprint and kind of the all means all concept for this year and how it all interlined. We had a basic rights in special education that Dr. Merrick hosted for us, as well as Northridge and Uxbridge. They came to us, is one of our goals that we'll talk about later on, is really trying to develop relationships with other districts in the valley. The superintendents have their cohort, the principals have theirs, the special ed administrators have theirs. So really, we've kind of crafted this Blackstone Valley CPAC collaborative that they attended with. We also had a social, emotional, and well-being academic success workshop that has come. Up next, it's 95% confirmed in the books. We have a basic rights transition planning. So for anyone not familiar with special education, transition planning starts at the age of 14 and goes through the ages of 22. And it really looks at developing post-secondary goals, what life's going to look like after high school. And, obviously I know we have a high school special ed teacher, but really looking at some of those independence goals and, not waiting till junior, senior year to working on those and getting those supports in. So we want to have families have access to some of those. There's a lot of community resources that are out there, as well as working with their teams to put some things in place. We know that we've had, not that it's any different than anywhere in the Commonwealth, but bullying has been a significant issue throughout the Commonwealth. Especially since coming back from COVID. A lot of kids have not had social emotional instruction that they've needed. We're all trying to recoup and get back all of our academic stuff, but that social emotional piece is a really big piece. So we are having a bullying seminar for our families just to know what their rights are and what they can advocate for, and to help them help the district as well. You can go to the next slide. So community partnerships. So this is kind of the fun part of CPAC that we haven't gotten to do as much of as we want to this year, but we were able to work with Dr. Merrick and some of the high school. I know Miss Bennett and Mr. Nash and some of the other teachers at getting the Center for Living and Working to come into the school. And they are the PREETS program, which is the pre-employment transition services. So they are absolutely free to us. They don't cost us anything, but they're a division of Mass Rehab. And so they will come in and they will work with the students on things like job skills, keeping a job, emotional intelligence, resume writing, all those things. So we have been able to work with the high school, so I believe they're coming in once a month right now, and then maybe possibly twice a month during intervention blocks to give children that want to sign up, it's a voluntary program, some extra skills in that area. They also do some virtual things as well that the kids can access off of school hours. So it really kind of helps buff that up, and obviously it doesn't cost us anything, which is beautiful. We have worked a lot with Open Sky, they have a lot of different things under their umbrella that they do, but we've been connecting with them because they are the DDS, so the Department of Developmental Services Family Support Center for our area, and they do a lot. So they have a lot of activities there. They have a lot of trainings and workshops there, but they also have post-grad programming. So we're really trying to work on a mentoring program for our students that are in the Stars and Stripes program to see what's out there, to have somebody out there after school. That hasn't been our most successful partnership in developing just because of time at the high school and then being able to execute it happening. But the door is open, and Open Sky is very willing to have us come in. They've offered us transportation. They've offered us whatever we need so that our students can access their center and they can continue to just see what's out there in the community. We're really just looking to help our population of students see what's out there after school. And just like with high school students getting help with financial aid and college prep and things like that, we have students that have parts of that, but they also have other things that we need to fill in those gaps and make sure that we are helping them. So we are actively trying to work to advocate with the special ed coordinator in the high school, as well as with Dr. Merrick, who have been receptive in scheduling meetings and things like that, but getting some of the boots on the ground work in place and kind of some of the follow through with some of that stuff has just been a little bit slow so far. But next slide, this is our fun slide. Unified sports. This is something we've worked for a long time to get back into the buildings. Our program currently has, about 25 students from grades 1 through post-grad. So post-grad is anybody over 18 that's still here with us, and they meet once a week on Tuesdays in the elementary school gym. They get to wear their own t-shirts, they get to play basketball, they have the best time together. If you want to go to the next slide, Paul, you can see a little bit of some of the skills that they're working on. I think what's really nice about this is that the families, well, the kids are out there. The families are on the benches talking, and the families are on the benches getting to know each other and to have some sort of a quote-unquote typical experience that our children wouldn't be able to have otherwise. What I do want to recognize is that Miss Bennett, Dr. Merrick, and Mr. DeFonso are all doing this volunteer right now, as we don't have a budget for it. We have talked with Dr. Merrick about putting in a proposal to have Unified Sports be a regular student activity and having this go all year. The data from the families and the kids has been really amazing for that, and I think it's a program we want to continue into next year. We're gearing up for our next season. We're starting with the first week of April. Yep. And we will be playing soccer because that's what they wanted to do. So we will be playing soccer inside. We did have a donor that is provided for a pizza party for the kids on the last day of basketball. So we'll give them a certificate and just make them have some pride in what they've done. But this program is definitely near and dear to our hearts, and I think it's something that's helped all the kids. And there's children that are, I think we have 4 or 5 children that are out of district that come and participate in it. So they come back to their home school and they get to be part of their community, and it's so important to us. You want to add anything to that?
Yeah, it's just been a pleasure to watch the children. Yeah, it's been great.
So we took another survey to see what the families are saying about their experiences. So this first survey is just, who did we hear from? The bulk of who we heard from was from the elementary school. The middle school was the next one, high school, and then primary school, we heard from a couple parents. But that's typical. That population is a little bit smaller and then it grows. If you want to go to the next slide, Paul. So this is how they would rate the communication between themselves and the following parties. I won't sit here and go over tit for tat, but you can kind of see how they feel like things are going in terms of the communication internally between everyone else. Next one, please. So I feel like I get a timely response within 24 to 48 hours of my emails and phone calls during the school week from teachers, and we wanted to make sure we clarified school week as well. I really just want to thank the teachers. Roughly, not good at math, I did not have SC math. Roughly 70% of them, of the teachers are really responsive to the families, and I think that goes to the community that they've built with their students' families, and I just really want to appreciate that. The next is to the administrators. So we had had difficulty getting responses to families from admin. And one of the things that we had talked about was, what is a reasonable timeline? So the district had I wrote 28, but it's supposed to be 48. We still feel like that's an area that we are lacking in terms of communication back from the administrators, the special education administrators. Families do not feel like they're getting their answers to their questions, and it's disheartening because families are really trying to collaborate and work with the school and work with their providers.
It looks like a little less than a third of parents feel they don't get timely responses from administrators. Okay. That concerns me.
And then the next one is, I feel I or my child, if over 14, have an equally heard voice in the team meetings. So for anybody that's not really familiar with the IEP process, after 14 years old, your child is invited and is a equal member of the IEP team. The parent, the teacher, the child, the coordinator, everybody's seat is equal at the table. This one really makes me concerned and worried that only 30% of us, or even with the strongly agree, maybe 40% feel that they have their voice equally heard at the IEP meetings, especially when that wasn't the case before. Full disclosure, if you're not happy, you might not be in this survey, or if you are happy, you might not be in this survey. However, the fact that there's enough people that aren't happy that are in this survey is concerning. And slide. I put that one in twice. It was late. I feel that I'm treated with respect and as an equal and collaborative team member. One of the things that I feel is really positive is the relationships between the general ed teachers, the special ed teachers, the service providers, and the families. Those bonds I feel like are really collaborative and strong. Where I feel like we are not meeting is in our respect from the administrators and the special ed coordinators. Now, I know we've had some turnover, but not all of these were from areas that we had turnover. Next, do you guys have any questions?
I'm just concerned by some of these responses, and I'm also looking at the page, it wasn't on there, I think it might be a little out of order, or some of the parent comments.
So that is not out of order. In order to keep privacy, I wanted the families, we wanted the families' voices to be heard by the school committee and the administrators. We didn't want that to play out publicly, but we wanted you to be able to see kind of what we're seeing. We do have data broken down by school
Okay.
and by building that, to just in complete transparency, I just have not had the time to finish. It's separated and sorted. It just does not look pretty right now. So, but it is there, and I appreciate the concern. I think what's hard for us is that people have stopped feeling like their voices are heard, and people have stopped feeling like there's action behind what their voices are saying. And it's really difficult as a CPAC to say, no, we value your voice, and to hear administrators say, we value your voice, we want to change it, but there not to be any action behind it. In not jumping, I guess I can jump forward a little bit and say that, you know, I mean, this is, we feel like, I think the law is the law, right? But I think there's something broken within our special education office, within the department, within the processes. We had about we're on our third administration, right? So about 3 years ago, we had a solid process. You got an invitation, you went to a meeting, you got your notes, you got your stuff, and you went on.
Well, those are all required by law, so that
They
should
are.
be happening regardless.
Absolutely. And then we had a change in administration, and we had people come in, and policies or procedures, and it might not be policy, Collie,
Yeah, I get it.
but the way that we handled those things got changed, and things started falling through the cracks. I mean, as of today, I know we still have, based on a conversation I've had with families up till today, we still have IEPs that are not being done timely, meetings that aren't being scheduled timely. And there's something broke in the system. We're on our third administration. There's something broken what's happening in that office. And I don't know what the answer is, but I know we can't continue doing what we're doing. Parents don't know what the procedure is. Teachers are unsure of what the procedure is. My own personal experience, I asked a question about my IEP and how it worked, and the teacher didn't know the answer because they didn't know what the administrator wanted them to do. There's communication breakdowns in a lot of areas. Let's see. In terms of,
Am I on the right slide?
I don't have my glasses on.
What does your slide say is the title?
The services being delivered as agreed upon, yeah. So asking families, roughly 35–40% of our families feel like the services are being delivered as agreed upon in their IEP services. I have there's a lot of from what I'm told from families, there's a lot of missed services due to staff absences, due to multiple meetings, due to not having a provider. I know some of that is if you have a meeting and that's during service time, you can't, there's a reasonableness within the law to make those things up. I think the other concern is that while we're very grateful that we've had people step up and get emergency licenses to teach special education, there's a lot of concern that not that the person is not a great teacher, but that there's no paper backup that they are qualified based on the state. And I mean that with all respect, because a lot of them put 125,000% into what they do. They need mentoring. They need guidance. They need people to help them. So there's a lot of concerns with the families about kids being delivered certain instruction that don't have, I hate to say qualified, but that's the law. The law is qualified, licensed teacher. Some of our kids don't have that. In our Stars and Stripes program with some of our most vulnerable people, we have an amazing para that stepped up and is getting her emergency license. That's our most vulnerable population. And they need support. So I think that's where a lot of this comes from. I feel that I have accurate and timely communications of my child's progress, including notes and reports. The district has, due to a variety of factors, which I know they are working to correct, we have kids that did not get progress notes due to people not collecting data. That's a concern. I know that there's been steps that are taken, but families are worried. Do you guys have any questions on any of that?
I guess my overall question is, obviously it needs to be addressed if we have this many families that are unhappy and worried. And in some ways, these are, well, they're not simple fix, because I realize, like, teachers, there's not a pool to hire, especially at this time. But at the same time, these are things that are set out by law. You have a certain amount of days to get those notes, to get those your progress reports need to go out just as often as anything in Gen Ed goes out, report card time. I don't know if we need training for the people that we have, if we need to revamp the whole system, but the fact that this is what we're getting back from parents is very concerning to me.
I agree.
And some of it is basic. It's the law, you just have to do it.
I absolutely agree, and I think one of the things that I can speak for myself. I feel like I'm a pretty involved parent, right, in the school, and I don't know what the process is for things in terms of questioning things on my IP. 1 year I was supposed to reject it. The year before that I was told just call us and talk about it. So there's just been a lot of breakdown in terms of what that policy or process is. So I would agree with you. I do think we need that. Like I said, I don't know what the answer is to get it in that office, but we need to change. Something needs to change.
Fair.
My biggest fear right now is people don't feel like they're being heard, and people don't feel like there's action. Do you have anything? I guess we're done. Oh, we're not. Thank you. So our goals. So the CPAC set out for 3 goals for this year. One, Dr. Merrick has done a very good job of trying to meet with us regularly. Sometimes it's when we're in our cars, sometimes it's when we're whatever, but we are trying to develop that communication with her. I really think getting more communication when we have a new coordinator and the current coordinator, and actually building some of those connections there. I think really trying to get some two-way communication. Other areas in the district do a really good job of, like, the Twitter page and getting some information out, and I know Dr. Merrick just has not had the time to make that happen for us this year. So we have developed and created a CPAC website. However, some people on the CPAC are a little too perfectionist, and it has not been put out there yet. But by the end of the year, we should have some stuff, because we want to make sure that families are able to access the information they need when and where they can access it. We had talked a lot about recording some of our meetings. And we don't want to do that because we want the privacy and the integrity of people in the meeting to be that. But the things that we can put, YouTube videos we come across, documents we come across, different websites and things like that, we want to put that up there for the families to see. It's really important.
Resources.
And resources. And speaking of resources, we are participating with Uxbridge in a resource fair. So that will be out there pretty soon for our families. It's in April. We'll be working with them. So we have done one informal support night this year. COVID is still really bothering us with that every time we have it scheduled, but we're going to continue to work on informal ways for families to get together. I think us having some of that time with Unified Sports has been really cool because we've gotten to talk to other families, and what's been really nice is different teachers, Dr. Vieira has come, like different people have popped in to see the kids, and it's really been nice to kind of have some of that community there. We need to work a little bit harder with Mr. O'Brien and Miss Bennett on recruiting students with IEPs and 504s to be part of the CPAC. We can create great programs and we can create what we think are great plans and do all this stuff, but if it doesn't matter to the kids or it's not catching their needs or their visions, there's no point. We really want to center around them. We are trying to be more visible. It's been difficult. When you're struggling with compliance in a district, asking administration to make sure that they're recruiting families for your CPAC is really hard to do. So that is an area we'll continue to work on. Goal number 3 is developing relationships with other CPACs in the Blackstone Valley. We have some really cool, we're really working well with Sutton, Uxbridge, and Northbridge, but as well as like Millville. There's some other towns that we're kind of sharing things with. We are in the process with Sutton of getting some more inclusive workshops and things like that into the Blackstone Valley Education Hub, and to see what they can offer with us. We use all of our family survey data to drive our workshops and planning, which is why the transition planning and bullying are things that have been very consistent concerns for us this year. We also host a literacy subgroup. So we had the pleasure of working with Nancy Dugan. She is she's a decoding dyslexia lady is how a lot of people know of her. But she's a really great advocate for quality literacy instruction, and she's really good at looking at kind of accommodations and goals and making them meaningful, and she has a lot of great resources. So she sits on our literacy subcommittee, and families are able to reach out and say, hey, we're struggling with this, or hey, I needed help with that, and she provides them with resources and support. We also do like questions of the month, like, do you know what the literacy, do you know what your child's reading program is? Most of our families don't. She does a lot of, we are able to get a lot of good support and data from that group. And just a small plug, the whole CPAC board is done as of May. So if anybody out there in YouTube land wants to be a CPAC board member, come see us. We'd love to have you. But do you guys have any other questions? Anything we didn't go over?
I think it's important that we hear from this,
Absolutely.
This is, the most vulnerable population we have in our schools, that you don't just come here and make a presentation to us. We do take it and look at it, and then we'll have a conversation. So if you could take that back, that we do hear it. So
Absolutely.
thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda is our STAR Middle of the Year review from Mr. DeFonso and from Ms. Sosha. This is our second year using STAR. Last year, teachers were getting comfortable using it, looking at the data, figuring out how to manipulate it and what to do. This year, I think you'll see in the results from beginning of the year to the middle of the year, Ms. Sosha spent a lot of time, as did Mr. DeFonso, meeting individually with teachers, looking at common planning time, creating individual student success plans for kids who are at risk. And I think you're going to see some massive gains from where we were at the beginning of the year to where we are now at the middle of the year. Now, again, it's important to note that when you look at some of these percentages, when you only had 2 kids in the red, and now you went to 1 kid in the red, you might see some fluctuate. When you're only talking 2 kids, the percentages change. And I said this earlier in the year when we've looked at data, and I just want to keep on re-emphasizing, we're more than just numbers on one assessment. Our kids are, our teachers are, our buildings are, our schools are, our families are, our community is. So this is just one data point, but remember, there's so much more that goes into what we do every day. We saw that here with the 3 first graders and just the dedication of the staff, just to prepare them, those soft skills, just to prepare them for staying up late, coming here, sitting still.
Introducing themselves.
Introducing themselves, and you just heard that even just in their voice, they were really loud sitting out here in the audience, but then when they got up there, they were nervous, but they did an awesome job. Those are all things that can't be measured on an assessment, and are all part of who we are and what we do. So, you know, just keep that in mind as we look at our data, but I think you'll be really pleased with where we started and where we've gone. And then just, again, a massive shout out to all of our teachers who have done incredible work embracing the word data this year. It's a word that we used a little bit in previous years. This year, like when they hear it, they cringe. Those of us who are in education cringe when we hear the word data. But it's been amazing what they've done and what they've been able to do by looking at it, processing it, and taking that time to analyze it. So I think we're starting with Miss Sosha and Kay.
All right, so the color tells you a lot, and your black and white copies probably don't tell you much of anything at all. So this is kindergarten ELA, beginning of the year versus the mid-year. So you can see just by the colors, there's a lot more in green, fewer red. The numbers are really small, so the next slide is going to...
Cindy, what do the colors represent?
So your green is at or above benchmark, and then the blue is on watch, yellow means intervention, and red is urgent intervention.
So you can see in K, our intervention and our urgent intervention has dramatically decreased from the beginning of the year to the middle of the year in K.
So these will be the numbers that you can't see on that first slide. So it's showing you the percentage from beginning of the year. We moved kids in the green. They made progress in the green. We moved kids from having 14 in the lower 2 categories to now 4. And we know exactly who they are. We've analyzed who they are, where did they go. So I could take those 9 students that were in the yellow intervention at the beginning of the year. 6 of them went to green. 2 blue, and 1 is a red, and that 1 is in the process of an evaluation. The 5 that were in red, 1 went to green, 2 went to blue, 1 yellow, and then 1 red. And again, this is a student that is been through the Title I and Tier 2, and now is in the evaluation process. I can break it down by teacher, and some of the teachers only have maybe 1 student below grade level. So even though, you know, we put that out there, and I went out on the limb with my goal of 100%, I mean, the teachers really did, you know, rise up to the occasion. So they did great. All right, so now grade 1 ELA, and again, just looking at it, look at how many red we had at the beginning of the year in grade 1, and there's 1 student now in the middle of the year, only 1. So that's just incredible. That is huge growth for us.
It is, and also because the score you needed to be for benchmark also rose, so it's not just the same
Right.
one.
I
so that's
love the
even
graphs
better.
because you can just see that visual just is awesome to see how many, this shocked the teachers. They were just blown away. That, you're in it day to day doing the work and pushing, and until you see this, you don't realize it. And until they saw their own individual class, they didn't realize what a good job they were doing. So again, on this one, you can see they went from 64% to 83%. 11% on watch stayed the same. Intervention, though, 14 students to 4 students now, and 7 students in the red now down to 1. And the same thing applies. We can look at them individually. We know where they went. We know how many went everywhere. So those 7 that were in the red, 5 went to green. That's incredible in itself. 5 went to green, 1 blue, 1 yellow. So they all made progress. The 14 in yellow, 4 went to green, 7 blue, 1 yellow, 1 red, 1 moved. So they did great. I'm just crossing my fingers now for the end of the year that we stay the same kind of projection. Grade 1 math. We started out pretty good without any only 1 in the red anyway, but we really reduced that yellow, the intervention piece, from the beginning of the year to the middle of the year. And again, there's only 1 student, I believe, yes, 1 student that's in that urgent intervention, and it's the student, again, we've done the Tier 1, we've done the Title I services, and now is in the process of an evaluation.
Still phenomenal.
And so the numbers for grade 1 math, we took 12 students in the red and yellow, and we have 1. So that's incredible. That just tells you how much work the teachers have done. We changed some things along the way, and I have a slide on that too. So, and then the ST Math has added to this. I think things are working. The machine is working well.
One thing that we noticed last year is that we had that increase in scores from beginning of the year to middle of the year. And then when we presented you at the beginning of the year, we had that dip from middle of the year to end of the year. So one thing we're going to do this year is we're going to do a mid-term assessment in March, to do another benchmark assessment in March to see, are we still continuing on that trajectory or what happened? The end of the year, that April and May gets tough for kids for a whole host of reasons, but we don't want to see that dip, so we're going to do that assessment in March to see where we're at. And then I think we're doing the last one, is it the end of May? Yeah, the end of May. So we've put that in place this year to do. But I think, Ms. Sosha and her team, and Mr. DeFonso did too, you'll see it, but they really embrace that common planning time. They really embrace that looking at the data. They really embrace that looking at each individual child and what can we do to tweak it. Cindy came with binders that teachers have with sticky notes about what they're trying and what they're doing differently, and it was a lot of work, but I think you're seeing the fruits of their labor this year by really what happens when you look at each kid individually and you are a reflective practitioner and you look at that data and you make those modifications and changes. We've seen it at least from the beginning of the year to middle of the year.
It's been money well spent, just based on this that we're seeing. I mean,
Do we do that? Yeah. we're here.
And STAR doesn't offer math for kindergarten, so we do give them the Go Math assessment for 3 times during the year. It is the same assessment at each time, exactly the same problems, and 96% of the students showed an increase from beginning to middle. Only 3 students had a decrease. Okay. So what have we done this year that maybe was different from last year? We just started last year doing the CBMs, which were it's a snapshot, it's a specific skill, a quick little measurement, curriculum-based measure, progress monitoring, and so now that's more on a regular basis. Teachers are doing that, Title I's doing that, just to keep track, and then once they get that goal, we know we can move on. If they're still not getting that one skill, then we try something different, and that's where those binders come in, where the teachers are saying, look, I've done running records on these kids, and look at what's happening, and this was working, this is working, and all of a sudden, this didn't work for that one child, so what do we do different? And then they flip the page and they're showing me, this is what we tried, until they find something that works for that student. And again, as Dr. Vieira said, last year, we only administered 3 times during the year. It was brand new to us, we were just kind of fumbling our way through it, and now after we did some PD, they said, oh, you can, give it a little bit more often. So we did it at the primary at the end of November as a midway, and then we'll do it again in March. So a few more times, but it's worth it. It's better to be able to see that and address it immediately. Our groups are smaller, and I know I've talked about that before. Groups are not 5 or 6 anymore, or 8 to the table. It's more like 2 or 3. There's a lot more one-to-one. When I'm walking down the hall, there's no para sitting at the back of the room, just at a table watching. She's always got 1 or 2 kids with her, and they're doing those constant drills. Our remediation para travels from room to room to room to room. She's got a list of kids that change, different groups change, so they're always addressing those needs, and especially right after the half year. Some of those kids that they were seeing one-to-one, maybe we have new kids that need to be seen one-to-one. So I met with teachers again, one-to-one. We talked about those kids. There weren't as many to talk about this time. The teacher, I'm like, who are we talking about? You don't have any red, you don't have any yellow, so now we're talking about the blues that were on watch. What are we doing for them now to get them up there into that green level? So those have been really helpful. We have a book room now that's encouraging the reading and giving students more choices. That's still a work in progress. Changed our math instruction to more of a small group model. They might do whole group to introduce a topic, but then they break up into 2 or smaller groups. They might have the remediation para in there at the time, or kindergarten has another para, so they break up. They alternate. Who's with the teacher this time? Who's with the teacher the other time? So it works out. Our SST meetings are every single week, so we have somebody saying, oh, well, this one's
What's SST?
Student support team. So it could be someone that has tardies. We have some kids that 30-something tardies. Okay, let's go bring them to SST because there's a concern. They're coming in late. They're missing that first thing in the morning, the instruction. So we address it as a team. It could be somebody that is beyond that. It could be that student that we've tried the Tier 1, we tried, the Title I is telling us they're not making progress, they can't access the curriculum, and then we move to the evaluation process. So those are every single week. We have a running record of who we're seeing and for what reason. So that's been helpful. I have what I call the red folder Bible that every teacher has, and this has all different strategies. So it has the MTSS strategies, it has the BCAP strategies, and we're talking about visuals, we're talking about choice boards, a word bank. There are so many suggestions in here that you might not have thought of them, and teachers might say, oh yeah, I remember doing that one time and it did work. So, this is like our reference. We go back to this all the time at SST, at team meetings, at common planning, just to say, what can we try that's different? So everyone has one of those, and that's been helpful. Next.
Can I ask you a quick question? So the binders that you do, that's awesome. What happens to them, say, when they go from kindergarten to first grade? Are they like a teacher binder, or would they take that and give that to the first grade teacher so the first grade teacher could know what worked?
It is something that could move on if, we would choose to do that, or if it would be helpful. Absolutely.
If they spent all that, I think that's great. They spent a lot of time and resources on that.
Mm-hmm. They did spend a lot of time on it. It was just, they blew me away with that. When I first said, bring your binder, show me what you're doing, and they came in, and it was like, oh my God, I didn't even expect that.
Yeah, I think especially at the beginning of the year, so that these kids can keep hitting the ground running.
Sure.
The teachers the previous year will have done a lot of research and work with each individual kid that, the new teachers do have to get to know them.
What works for someone and what didn't work and things like that. Same thing with SST, that running record of, who was brought to SST, what was the reason for it, so that they can be on the watch for that.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So we're using the data to drive our instruction. That is the ultimate goal, to make changes, to adjust, change our grouping, differentiate. We use it for selection for Title I. Of course, we use it, to report to parents. We use it during the SST. We use it during common planning. So basically, though, it's to drive our instruction, to make our changes, make the adjustments, to help move those kids to be successful. So our conclusions, I can't even say enough how proud I am of the primary teachers. What they have accomplished and how they did it is just amazing to me. You know, I think I scared them with my goal, first of all.
You did.
I did.
Reach for it.
I put a little pressure on. I think they got a little stressed, but again, they didn't realize how well they were doing. They weren't recognizing that in themselves. They just keep going every day, day to day, until they could see the results. So I'm so pleased with the work that they have done and the progress that the kids have made. Yep. Still work to be done, always. You know, it's a work in progress. We did do an ELA curriculum review on the last PD day. Preschool, kindergarten, and grade 1, we took the standards. They went through them one by one and noted, do we do this? Don't we do this? Do we do a lot of this? Do we need to do more of this? Oh, this isn't in our program, so we need to do this. So we made some notes on that. We know that poetry in kindergarten and first grade, that's a definite gap. So in our book room now, when we order books, we're going to be ordering poetry books. So we really analyzed that, and I think that'll be helpful too for any kind of testing, any kind of assessment, knowing what we're lacking and what might be a weakness. And then we freed them up. I freed up the teachers. I got subs for the K teachers and the grade 1 teachers. They went into our maps that are in our program, Rubicon Atlas, and they updated them. So they put in the new initiatives, the new strategies, all the new resources that they're using. So now anybody could come in and pick that up and say, okay, it's March, the first week, where should we be? And I could pick that up and just look at it, and I know what story they're on, what skill they're on. It's all listed. They're really, really nicely done. You know, we hadn't been in there for a while looking at them, and they're very useful. And then moving forward, we're just going to continue to do the progress monitoring. We're going to do that testing mid-cycle, continue to meet with my teachers, talking about each individual student and what we can do for them. We've reassigned our remediation para to different needs now that we know, the mid-year assessments, and we've addressed all of the weaknesses and the gaps in the curriculum. So I feel like in a good place, really. I'm really pleased with the scores.
Excellent.
Any questions for me?
Do we have, and it's just because I can't remember, are the remediation paras, are we budgeted for them for next year as well, too? Okay, thank you.
Yes.
It'll be the last year in the ESSA grant, then we'll have to roll it into our operating.
Okay.
That poor girl just runs around the whole building. She has a very busy day, and it's working, though. It's definitely working.
Definitely appreciate that.
Moving to the elementary school, reading and math. We'll start with grade 2.
All right, so one thing you'll notice with, grade 2, there was some misunderstanding this year. Some grade 2 teachers had thought they were going to do the early literacy test with the regular reading test. So you'll notice that the numbers of students don't jive, but it does still show the performance of those who took the regular reading test. So obviously, you can see from the left to the right, there's significantly more students in green, less students in red, so clearly going in the right direction. I think it was 39% of students were at or above at the start of the year, and then middle of the year, 62%. So that's a pretty phenomenal percentage increase. So I'm very, very happy. The teachers have made a really concerted effort. They've done a great job. So very proud of them for that. So grade 3, again, you can see massive increases there too. 44% of students were at or above to start, 60% were at or above at the middle of the year. Again, that's a pretty enormous boost too, and that's a credit to, again, to the staff. And the other numbers are going in the right direction as well. So, the urgent, so basically the way I look at this is you have 4 levels: urgent, intervention, on watch, and at or above. So when we met with teams, when I meet with grade level teams, we basically took, all right, all the kids aren't urgent. Let's identify them. Our goal is to get them up a level and just have that ripple effect. You know, so we were seeing kids who were jumping anywhere from 1. We even had some kids jump 3 levels. So, I mean, the data speaks for itself. In grade 4, again, like as Ms. Socia said, that the screening report here on STAR is really good. It's a really good visual. Here we 63% at or above, 70% at mid-year we're at or above. So again, trending in the right direction, and seeing this is just a really positive trend, and I'll be very excited to see what the March mid-cycle looks like as well.
Do you have any concerns with the grade 3 being at 60% and the significance of 3rd grade being when children typically stop learning to read and begin to read to learn? Do you anticipate that by the end of the year that will be better?
Yeah, I mean, I think 60% for middle of the year, 3rd grade is a pretty good spot to be in for middle of the year. Yeah, and I think the trend that they're going in is really good. You're at 44 to start, and now you're at 60. I think that's a very positive trend. Yep, so we talked about that. All right, so power and math. All right, so grade 2. Now, way back to the start of the year, we talked about some of the things that were goals of ours, and math was, I'm sure as you committed to memory, our first presentations, math was a major focal point because past data showed that we were pretty weak in math. So those early meetings with grade level teams, we really wanted to look at where we were falling in math and what we could do to improve. So grade 2, they had a 57% to start the year at or above, and they moved 18% increase to 75 at middle of the year, which that's a pretty remarkable bump. And teachers were really focused on identifying those students, as I mentioned before, those that were not at or above. What are we doing? What can we do? What do we need to do? And I think that bump is indicative of the hard work that they put into that.
It was interesting, I had a conversation with a 2nd grade teacher. One of the big pushes this year at the elementary school is to make sure we're hitting those numbers with ST Math. So Mr. DeFonso's been working with staff on it, and I had a 2nd grade teacher say, "Did you see our ST Math scores?" I'm like, "Yeah, they went up." Our STAR scores, they went up. They go, "Maybe there's something to this ST Math thing after all." So they're drawing that correlation between more time using ST Math and then that increase in beginning of the year and middle of the year for STAR in math.
So one thing that's interesting, when I was recently speaking to one of the folks at ST Math, and at the end of last year, our progress level as a school was 33% for the whole year. The goal is 80. She said, based on where we're at now, we are on track for 91%, which is almost a 60% increase in a year, which is, she said she couldn't even believe how much of a turnaround it's been. And I think you're starting to see some of the fruits of that labor, as Dr. Vieira just alluded to. Grade 3. So I have a hard time reading off of that screen as well. So grade 3. I thought grade 2 was phenomenal with a 17% increase. Grade 3 saw a 24% increase from at or above benchmark to start the year to middle of the year. And you'll see those numbers are going all in the right direction. And we took the same approach with them too. We ended the year with, all right, where are we weak? We took the BOI data, said, okay, what is the data telling us? Who's where? Who needs what help with what content and what skills? And teachers have really done a diligent job focusing that, and something that Mrs. Socia alluded to as well. when we do those small group interventions, we're trying, when we can, to have fewer students in those groups. I think naturally, any smaller the number of kids in a group, the more focused and individualized attention they're gonna get, and they're reaping the benefits. All right, so grade 4, they saw an 8% increase from beginning of the year till to the middle of the year. This is, 8% is definitely not a bad jump. There's a lot of extenuating circumstances, and I think this is these kids are the COVID year students, and I think you're seeing this across a lot of schools and districts. So that being said, they're still making excellent gains. It's tough when other grades are making their jumps. It may not seem as good, but 8% is a good increase. They're going in the right direction, and that's a trend, the upward trend that I want to see. So for EL,
You got a question?
Yeah, I just wanted to touch, because since we were talking about grade 4, and I'm noticing this on their math scores and their reading scores, when we look at urgent interventions,
Are we in math or ELA?
in both ELA and math, the number of students in urgent intervention actually goes up. And even, it's 1 student in ELA, but it's 3 students in grade 4 math. Has there been any discussion around that, and what might change for the second half of the year to try to address that?
Yep, so, definitely. So, one of the things that when we looked at when the MOI numbers came out, we looked at that, we said, all right, what students remained at urgent? What students went up a level? What students maybe went down a level? There were very few students who went down. So, top of my head, I don't remember the number exactly, but of those still at urgent, some of them 5 stayed the same and 3 went down. Okay, and we looked at those, and one of the things that we kind of came across was some of those students who did go down, they sometimes they get pulled for their reading pull-out services sometimes during those math blocks, and that, again, that's not the only reason, but that's a significant reason why that could contribute to that as well.
Have you looked at the scheduling on that? To see if we can, have you looked at the scheduling on that
Yeah,
and see what you can do?
So it's interesting you say that. So with Dr. Merrick and I are looking at reworking the schedule next year to make it so things like that don't happen. And I think that's going to make a big difference for next year as well. So that's one measure that we're looking at doing, and I think it's going to help everyone, ELA and reading. So I anticipate those numbers to go up next year, for sure. And one thing that our 4th grade has done this year, which I think is a positive, when there's a new skill being introduced, there's basically a pre-assessment, what it comes down to, and based on those results, that's how they formulate their group for that new skill. So a student who does really well at the beginning, he's going to be at a higher group for that skill, and those who are struggling a little bit, they might be at a lower group. So it's fluid as well. So when a new skill is introduced, Johnny's not always in the top group. It's just based on how they're doing. So I think that's really a testament to flexible grouping and what students need. So they've been doing that, and we've seen kids make some gains. So I definitely would like to see that number be lower and the urgent level. But teachers are aware of who those kids are, and they're looking at ways that we can, whether it's Title I services, we got a couple kids whose IEPs are coming up and whatnot. So they are aware 100%, and they are on board as to what we can do for each student on that. Yeah, that was a good question. So some of this I talked about already, and a lot of it's some of it's similar to what Mrs. Socia talked about. One of the biggest things from our PD with our literacy consultant, Ms. Landrigan, was that teachers were in past practice with their smaller groups, they had higher numbers than maybe they should have. And one of the things Ms. Landrigan stresses, you really need to minimize those numbers of kids. You can't have a group of 8, it's like 4, in that kind of ballpark. So that's been a big focus this year. Ms. Socia mentioned progress monitoring, something as well, we're doing as well. One thing that STAR can do for you is break down by every single standard how a student does across the board. So that graph you saw, the whole grade, just on their levels, you can get something similar to that, but on the standards. So you can look across and say, wow, there's a big chunk of green, we knocked that standard out of the park. Then you might see a big chunk of red, say, ooh, there's a standard that we have to maybe we have to reteach, maybe we have to approach it a different way. So that's some of the things that I've been doing with staff at our CPT meetings as well. I've had some parents talk to me about that and how we can identify, oh, you know what, my Billy's doing a really good job here. We need to really focus on this though because he's struggling. So that's a good tool. We also made a big improvement with Ms. Landrigan's help on our book room. Teachers are signing those books out. There's different levels, different genres. It's by grade level, so teachers are making good use of that. Math, ST Math has increased. I'm seeing a lot more stations with teaching math instruction, which is a benefit because that way you can really focus on differentiating what a kid needs. If one station might focus on an area, like we'll have teachers who help predetermined groups. And they know, all right, you're going to go to this station because this they don't know it, but you're struggling with adding fractions or whatever the case may be. But this group maybe be excelling with that, so they're going to have a different. So that stations allow teachers to really differentiate what students need. And actually, fact fluency practice, which is something that a lot of the teachers said was a struggle. That's been a focus as well, and that's where, again, whether it's homework, whether it's a station in the, because I'm finding that too when I go into classrooms and I'm seeing kids doing ST Math, they struggle in straight facts fluency. And I think I do what teachers had said that was a struggle. I definitely would agree upon that. So teachers have made that another focus as well this year. So obviously providing parents with how kids are doing. Some of the data is contributing to students who might be selected for Title I, students who might need remediation help. So one of the things that came up during our CPT meetings with kids who are struggling is, okay, what are we going to do? Well, Johnny's going to be getting Title I pull-out services or push-in services from our remediation para. We have, excuse me, we have a remediation para, excuse me, at grade 3 and 5. And they're definitely used very heavily. Like Mrs. Socia said, they run around servicing all kinds of kids, all kinds of groupings, and same with our building. So that's been a huge help for that Tier 2 intervention needs. Excuse me. And the staff has really done a great job with the growth of our students and their assessment levels. I couldn't be happier, and I know there's room to grow, but in 3-4 month span, they've made quite a few gains across the board, and I'm excited to continue that momentum. And so when we do our next round in March, it'll be great to see, and then I'm hopeful and confident that we'll continue that upward trend into the final test at the end of May. Kind of moving forward, like I said, I'm excited with the positive trends we're seeing. So we're going to continue doing with a lot of what we set out to do. It's been working, and I'm trying to be more of a presence at CPT meetings on more of a consistent basis, so I can hold myself accountable, keep the teachers up to date on things that I may have access to that maybe they don't. Hey, have you seen this? So versus them wasting all their time, not wasting all their time, but spending all their time getting all these data, well, I'll do that data legwork and share with what I can with them, maybe take one thing off their plate so they can focus more on the students, and I can help them with, hey, this is what some of the data shows us. Like the minute we had, pretty much as soon as we had the STAR testing done, I was meeting with teams and sharing with them a lot of information, and they were very excited at some of the gains that kids made, and where there was some students who maybe didn't make the gains that they were hoping, they took that really to heart and said, okay, we need to kind of regroup with Johnny and figure out, all right, this is what we've been doing, maybe it's not working as well, we need to change this, we need to do this different, we need to maybe refer him for Title I, or whatever the case may be. So they took it to heart, and I was very impressed with their devotion and dedication to the kids, and willing and wanting to really see improvement.
One of the great things about data and information, having this tool, it gives us the ability to adjust our instruction. So we put a plan in place at the beginning of the year, and we looked to see what we were making for progress. We did our middle of the year assessment, and at different grade levels, we have different levels of success. So the great thing about this is we now don't have to wait until the end of the year to get that final assessment. At this midpoint of the year, both Mr. DeFonso and Ms. Socia can go back to their teachers and adjust what they've seen and tweak what they've seen to see those progressions and gains. So hopefully with what they put in place between now and when we do that next round well, we are in March, aren't we? Okay, so in a few weeks, we can see what that's done. So this is, when did you guys do this?
January.
So this was done in January. So we've spent about a month looking at this data, manipulating it. I know Mr. DeFonso's changed a little bit how he structures common planning time. Can you just talk a little bit about what you're doing differently now since January with common planning time from what you were doing at the beginning of the year, just to give everyone some highlights as to what you're doing with your time in CPT?
Yeah, so
based off of this data?
Yeah, so being new to the building, you know, those first couple of CPTs, as much as I was able to attend, it wasn't as maybe data-driven as I normally would like. You're getting to know staff, you're getting to know the kids, you know, you have to develop some sort of relationship. But now as kind of getting into the groove a little bit more, knowing the kids more, knowing the routine, knowing the teachers, and now having the benefit of having that halftime dean position has really helped free up time that I didn't have at the start of the year as much as I would like. So I've really been able to, with the team's help, make those data meetings, I make those CPT meetings very data-driven, because data's great, but if you don't do anything with it, well, what's the point, right? So what we're really doing is looking at it, analyzing, and figuring out, all right, it's telling us this, but what are we actually going to do about it, okay? And the why is the big question. All right, we have the data, what's it telling us and why? And I've been able to really make that a focus of CPT meetings more recently, just because I've been able to get to it more, and I think teachers are really starting to see, once you see like a student, the benefits of the fruits of your labor and your time, I think that really does a big thing to your mindset. And when kids start to see, hey, wow, I got a good mark on that test because I studied. Teachers start to see, wow, I'm putting all this time and I'm seeing the benefits of it. That's just really, that buy-in just keeps on going up and up and up. And I'm to be part of that process and to help that process. I meet with them to say, hey, this is a great job. Let's keep this momentum going. All right, a little bump here, what can we do, right? So that's a big piece. And we're having weekly SST meetings where we're updating on kids who are in the referral process, where are they? Kids who are within the intervention process mid-cycle, what are they doing? Are there any new kids on the radar, whether it be academically, socially, emotionally, medically? That's a weekly basis as well. So you don't want a kid to fall through the crack, and this is why you do these weekly meetings. This is why you have these data reviews. You need to see a kid from every angle you can. Really, it's the whole child approach.
Have your teachers identified any additional support they need or any additional things that they need during any of the CPT meetings, or?
It really comes down to time. You know, it's like, you know, I know you can't just invent time, but, you know, Johnny gets pulled for this or he gets pulled for that, or there's a sub teacher's out, we're short of staff, this person has to get pulled. So personnel and time, you know, and obviously those are things you can't just come up out of thin air, but.
So staffing's still kind of difficult?
Coverage.
Sub coverage, like that, you know, I'm lucky if I'm able to get a sub a day or two, The only benefit, the only time it's not a complete nightmare is when your kids are home from college, so you have that month that they're home. But on a consistent basis, you're lucky if I get 1 or 2 subs available. So I'd say that's the biggest, and there's nothing we can do about it. We've tried to recruit, we've added some subs during the year, but, I'm only available this day, or I can't do it on, every other Thursday, or only on odd days. So you do your best, but I will say my staff has been phenomenal with, hey, you know what? I know you're assigned here, but Mrs. So-and-so in grade 4 is out, we need you, no problem. And they'll do whatever is needed for the benefit of the kids, and they've been really very, very flexible, and I appreciate that.
Thank you.
So I don't know, because I know it's data and it takes a while to interpret it, but is there a possibility before the end of the year for them to come back? Even if we just focus on the 4th grade, like where they were? I mean.
So the end of the year, we're doing an end of the year report. They'll do an end of the year report in May. Probably took them about 2-3 weeks
Yep,
to do this, so the May one may be tricky, but we can come back in, are you doing it end of March?
I'm doing March, the week of the 13th for us.
So in 2 weeks? So we could probably come back the second meeting in April and look at that March assessment and compare that to middle of the year to the March assessment to see what we have for growth. And do that in April. Give them 2-3 weeks to administer the test and then to interpret the data. I'll add that to March.
When do you start, are you starting planning, like scheduling for next year?
I meant April, sorry.
Already, so you're already kind of looking at what your programming's gonna look like for next
1,000%.
year, and, okay.
1,000%. How to best eliminate, negate, or mitigate those instances that you mentioned earlier about Johnny being pulled. So with Dr. Merrick's help, we're really looking at how we can best maximize and make the most optimal schedule. So these numbers, which I think are good, are gonna be even better, is our hope.
I am a little concerned about the grade 3 reading, but it'll be good to see what we get in April, too.
Yeah. Yep. So, thank you both for coming and staying so late this
Thank
evening.
you guys very
as
much.
always.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
I will try my hardest to make the the budget presentation exciting at 8:30 at night.
These are my numbers. I
These are
love
your numbers, so
numbers.
let's
Courtney
see.
and I are just like,
We can make it exciting
Let's see what we
It's actually really easy to read this time, so I'm just saying.
We try to make it easy, so thank you.
Okay, so we all had a good chuckle.
can I just disturb, do we have kids here for something
Yeah,
this evening?
I was going to ask,
Can we move them?
some stuff?
Sure.
Oh, yeah.
I meant to move them beforehand, and I apologize.
We can, is this student council for the trip? Okay, come on up.
Yeah, because we have that whole,
Yeah.
take it out of order.
We'll take it out of order.
Yeah,
This is for the,
Consent agenda, or is it?
overnight.
this is for the
third
third
one
bullet
now.
point, approval of the overnight student council annual conference, right? All right.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much for the consideration. I'm sure Luke is. So we have our student council who has been working really hard all year. Great, incredible student leadership, I have to share with you. And they are excited because the annual conference is back and up and running. It's been on hiatus at the state level for a couple of years, as we know, with many things. So the annual conference is coming up March 8th through 10th down in Hyannis. And Ms. Floria is here as one of the co-chaperones to share. And so at this point, I'm actually going to turn this over to
Perfect.
our senior to
Yep.
introduce yourself.
So
and-
my name's Luke Lightbound. I'm the student council president. So we're hoping to go on the MASC Spring Conference. That is, again, March 8th to the 10th. And we are, there's like, oh my God, let me get the list. Workshops, speeches, awards, entertainment, all that stuff. There's a polar plunge that I'm very excited for that. That should be fun.
geez.
A lip sync competition, and everything. So it should be very good for the students. We are splitting the bus with Oxford, so some of the costs are going to go down. It is roughly about $125 per student. We have 12 students that are going, 8 girls and 4 boys.
So it's a 2-night overnight stay. They'll be staying at the Cape Codder Hotel, which is just right across the way from the resort center. And again, as Luke indicated, there are 12 student leaders, all grades, right?
Yeah.
9 through 12, which is exciting too.
good.
Right,
Oh,
to be
that's
able
really
to,
good.
right, all grades to be able to get that.
It has the water park in it, I
And,
think.
Ms. Floria and Ms. Novicki will be the chaperones.
Yes, I've actually gone on this trip as a chaperone 2 years previously, so I am familiar with it. They have 3 full days of that they break the students up and they go to different workshops with other student council students from all
Across the state.
schools
Yeah.
around the state, so they kind of have them separated and they're going to multiple workshops while me and Ms. Novicki will be going to advisor workshops as well. And then everyone comes together for like dinner and lunch. They provide that for everybody. And in that time, there is a group of students who are giving presentations. I think they're called the delegates to, they're trying to be voted on the e-board for like the Massachusetts Student Council. So that's kind of what it's all about.
Right. And the Student Council, they've been fundraising for this event, so part of the trip will be fundraising funds. We have money coming out of the line items as well. And then, again, there is some individual cost for the 2-night, 3-day event. So we are here to ask for permission, right, for the Douglas High School Student Council overnight trip to the MASC State Conference in Hyannis, Mass. From March 8th through the 10th, 2020.
Not that they didn't do a great job plugging it, but when I was a principal, I was involved at the state level with this thing. It's awesome. It's 3 days. It's about 500-600 kids, 9 through 12. It's an opportunity for them to exchange ideas, to see what other schools are doing, to network, to build. The lip sync is awesome. The dance is fun. The polar plunge, not everyone does it, but it is pretty cool to do that. So
It does raise money for Special Olympics, the Polar
The Polar
Plunge. We
Plunge,
are
yeah.
accepting donations to raise money for the Special Olympics as they do the Polar Plunge. So.
But it's an awesome event. And again, it's 3 days, 2 nights, full meals, transportation, so.
And as, was it you or Hannah that indicated, as soon as you walk in, you drink the juice. It is student council juice down
You
there in
do.
terms of just the excitement and the energy, so.
A lot of spirit.
Yeah.
Everything should be good.
That's awesome.
Anybody have any questions?
Are you both going to do the polar plunge?
I signed up for it.
I'll be taking the pictures. I'll share them.
As a council, we get a
We're
whole
selfless.
theme. So we dress up in some type of theme.
Best costume gets a prize, so
Yep.
we'll have to brainstorm. Unless you already have an idea.
I don't. So it should be good. I'm very excited.
So if nobody else has any questions or comments?
I move to approve the Douglas High School Student Council overnight trip to the Massachusetts Association of Student Council Student State Conference in Hyannis, Mass. From March 8th to the 10th, 2023.
Motion made by Julie, seconded by?
Teresa?
Teresa. Second by Teresa. All those in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? Anyone abstaining? Have a wonderful time, and
Yes,
if you want to
enjoy.
come back and talk to us about it, we'd welcome the opportunity.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. And that will transition beautifully into the preliminary proposed budget. So this is just a brief update from where we were back on February 1 when I presented. Second slide is, again, the mission statement, which is just important to keep out front and there for everyone to see and for everyone to know. This is what we value, this is what we believe in, this is what we strive for. So, really, not to go through every single solitary number, we're really gonna go down and focus in on the last 2 numbers of the slide. When I came here on February 1, we were at about $1.1 million above our appropriation, almost 11% increase over FY '23. In the past month, from February 1 to March 1, remember, with April vacation in there, we've been able to reduce that about $350,000 down to $750,000 deficit, or an 8.29% increase. So really, where has that $321,000 come from? we did have an addition in sped tuition at $45,000. We eliminated textbooks, and we'll put a little caveat in there that Ms. Keegan can talk about in a minute for that. We were really excited, and this is how, I guess, exciting my life is, that
And
we,
mine too.
Courtney's is that we projected one number for oil and for a dollar amount per gallon, and it came in at a lesser dollar amount, so we saved $79,000. So we were able to reduce the budget by $79,000. That was very, very exciting news.
So do you mind if I give the news?
You
I'm
can
going to
go-
bring it formally to you on March 15th, but the current price per gallon is 2.90, and now it's 3.0442, which is far less than what, anybody was thinking it was going to be, for the school side anyway,
So.
So we were very happy with
We budgeted $4 a gallon, came in at $3, so we're really excited for the $80,000.
It's the small things,
It's the small things.
But it
Oil.
comes in big.
It does.
Yeah.
We reduced instructional hardware, again, I had principals and directors go through their line items and say, where can we reduce things? So instructional hardware was almost $35,000, salary vacancy savings, $25,000, instructional supplies, $16,000, various other reductions, $57,000, for a total of $321,000 total. So we're able to get that down from February 1 to April 1. Go ahead.
To
go
March,
ahead.
yeah, to
go
March,
ahead.
just March 1st.
To March
So the
1st.
only other thing is, you will notice that we did not make any changes to the, to increasing the utilization of revolving funds. So we are anticipating that, we'll have more time going by to get a better handle on how we're projecting for June 30th to end, because a lot of things have happened this year. There's been the last couple of years, there's just been a lot of volatility, which I know you guys are not, that's not new to you. So we just to get by some more time, because I've already pushed us out on a limb a bit, and I don't mind doing it more to keep everything that we need, that we know we need, to educate our students, which is what we're here for. But I didn't want to put it out too early. So we will be doing the updates as we go along and towards the public hearing.
I just
And
was,
go from there.
I was curious about where you eliminated textbooks.
Oh, thank you. That was the other thing I was going to address. Thank you so much for the reminder. So this is the same thing that we had to do last year, too, because there's such a large number in the budget. So after we closed the books, and this is what we did for FY '23, we eliminated all of it last year as well, but we're able to buy them after we close out the books. Because then I know exactly what we have after we close the books in all of our revolving funds. There's no trying to project or praying and hoping that nothing bad happens between now and June 30th, when we're actually, voting the budget. But so, hopefully we'll have enough funds after we close the books to purchase those textbooks.
So are these textbooks that we do need?
Well, we always need textbooks. But we have to come down to our
Because we're moving to
appropriation.
digital, we're moving to a lot of things, a lot of resources online.
Oh, some of them
which
are
is
online.
why- Okay, so
Yeah,
some of
them
these.
are online.
When you
Yeah.
say textbooks, you're also
Yeah,
referring
because
to online
DESE
resources.
requires us to, we call them textbooks, but they can also be online
Digital
subscriptions as
subscriptions.
well. And thank you for bringing that up as well. Because I keep forgetting to mention that it's not always hard book textbooks.
Okay. So when you eliminate it here, is there something that, is a surety that it's going to be there after the close of books?
Well, we can't
Or would you take from the
assure.
general fund if you need to cover that cost?
No, so we're trying to come down to a general fund appropriation that meets the general fund budget amount that meets the town's appropriation at this time, as we know it at this time. And we just have to do that, unfortunately. So we try as a leadership team to do the best we can, because it's so difficult, because you can't, the main thing is to maintain the staff that we have. Because those are the people in front of our students doing the actual instruction. So, and as a leadership team, we look at, everything that's in the budget, and we try to make the best decisions we can. None of them are perfect decisions, but also I want to remind you too, for those that don't know, and not everybody appreciates it, but we're very detail-oriented. I have very detail-oriented budget process here, and there's a reason for that, and it's to your point. So for instance, even in electricity, I keep track of kilowatt hours of use. Nobody, I don't think, in the whole entire state does that. But I do that for a reason. If I were if I didn't do that detail work, I would just have a number. I would just be looking at have a number, and I might be increasing and inflating that electricity budget all throughout the 4 schools. and have to lay off a teacher to accommodate that higher than a necessary budget line. So not everybody appreciates it, but that's why we have a very detailed process. And then we all work as a leadership team to look at all those individual details and numbers to try to do our best to make that very difficult decision of what to reduce the budget. And remember, last year, we were able to purchase all those textbooks.
What we've done historically.
it is
because-
difficult.
Because the textbook number is so large, is we
Right.
put it in there to start, but because we have to get down to that town appropriation, we pull that out, and then hopefully, in July 1, after July 1, we can go out.
After we close the
After we
books,
close the
yeah.
books, we can go out and do it. The only other thing that we have that equals that dollar amount is our salaries, our staff. So in given the choice, would you rather eliminate a staff and say, you might come back, or you're probably going to come back in
We wanna keep the
August?
staff we
Or
have.
do textbooks?
Yeah.
You weigh the two and you go with the textbooks because you don't want to lose a good quality teacher and say, but there's a good chance.
And hope we find one.
Yeah, and hope we find one. And say in mid-July, late July, early August, you'll hear back from us and you should have your job back. Or would you rather do it with textbooks? And unfortunately, that's the reality of our budget, and that's what we do. So we go with the $150,000 in textbooks versus the 3 teachers.
And keep in mind, we still have a ways to go as well.
And we still have a ways to go. But as my slide that I like using, again, we've had some good meetings, Ms. Keegan, we need to have a budget subcommittee, but we are
Yes.
cautiously optimistic that with the additional use of revolving funds, that with additional line item analysis and a possible increase of the town's allocation beyond the 2%, we should be able to come down. 2 things to point out. One, those 4 positions are still in the budget. So that $750,000 that we're still short, those 4 positions of the school adjustment counselor, the special education teacher, the custodian/maintenance, and the STEM, those 3 positions are still in there, and that comes to about approximately $250,000. We also need to see where we are with school choice. And as Courtney has pointed out, the closer we get to the end of the year, the more comfortable we are with potential liabilities out there. Obviously, we remember the April 1 snowstorm of the April Fool's joke back in the late 90s, early 2000s. Hopefully, we're beyond that. But as we get closer to April and May, we're more comfortable using some more of our revolving funds because we're closer to the end of the year and we have less days to cross our fingers over.
And we did one other thing, too. We did receive the 240 grant that we typically get. We got it late this year, so I need to review the overall sped tuitions budget and the sped budget overall, and to see about the possibility of also reclassing from the general fund
Right.
into that grant. So that's another possibility. I forgot to mention that as well, to mitigate that 754 there. But there's been some new tuitions coming in, so again,
It's a wait and see. Yep.
It's a scary number right now, and we were able to do the $320,000 between February 1 and March 1. On March 15th, we'll come back again, and we'll show you what we've done to go from the 750 closer to the 0, and then obviously we have our public hearing in April, where we'll have to be at the town appropriation.
and the budget subcommittee meeting too as well.
The
in
budget
meantime.
subcommittee meeting, correct.
And, I will tell you, I don't mind saying it publicly, that this year, since 2018, is the more really bothering me year. It kind of feels a little bit more like it used to be years ago, which is a little bit, a little concerning for me. But, so that's why I wanted to take our time and be very careful about, I didn't want to rush to do anything. So that's kind of why this year we're doing it in pieces. We did the February 1st, and update, because we want to be very careful. And the few weeks that go by gives me more time to look at these other things as well. And you know how I want to be prudently conservative with the use of school choice, because it's a double-edged sword, because it will have an effect on FY '25. And I know, I feel that really because of the wonderful things happening on the town side with regard to economic development things, that does take time to come online. But I'm hoping that in FY '25, we can just get through '24. FY '25 might give us a little bit back of that breathing room. I'm hoping again to not have this kind of a feeling that we haven't had for years. So just need to kind of just take a deep breath. We'll get through FY '24, and that's why we're kind of doing it in pieces. So a little different this year.
There's a couple things coming from the state level too that still need
Right.
to percolate and go through. You know, I shared with you earlier that the OSD rates for sped tuition went from an average of about 2% to 14%. Which for us is an impact of $175,000. Governor Healy has allocated, so we'll get circuit breaker relief for that in FY '25, which doesn't do anything for us in FY '24. So what they're looking at is they're looking at creating what they call a bridge year for FY '24. So she's allocated, in this first round of the budget, $20 million to help offset that 14% to school districts. There's some stuff going on, Ms. Keegan and Dr. Merrick are getting some numbers for us to send up to the MASS for information as to how the state's going to allocate that $20 million potentially to schools. There's also talk about increasing circuit breaker reimbursement for this year from, I think, 75% to 90%, which again could benefit the schools. So as we go further along the line and the governor's budget comes a little bit more online, there might be more relief coming to the schools, which will then do one of two things. Either A, allow us to reduce that $750, or B, some of the things we had to take out of the budget, we can then put back in. So when we say as time goes by, the picture becomes clearer, it does. And you know, because we had that change of leadership at Beacon Hill in January 1, she's behind the 8 ball in getting her budget up and running and her priorities and her committee. So we're behind about 4 to 6 weeks from where we typically are with information coming from Boston.
But actually better than what they thought it was going to be,
Correct.
because we did get the preliminary Chapter 70,
came
and
out,
also
so,
state,
I
which
mean-
nobody was expecting to get anything at this juncture, so I'm
She
happy with that.
actually has a plan that's
She
out
has
there.
a
I'm happy with
So-
that.
Yep.
So, I mean, that's, fingers crossed, right?
Yeah, fingers crossed, fingers crossed.
Any other questions on the budget?
Any
I just
questions?
appreciate like all that goes into doing the budget, because I'm sure as our administrators, it's not easy to have to,
No.
I'm not going to use the word micromanage, but be very prudent in looking at those things, but it comes down to our kids and it comes down to our staff being in here for the kids, so I just appreciate the work that goes into it.
I know one of the things they all did in purchasing textbooks and supplies was just going back and calling the vendors and say, you got to do better for me.
Yeah.
And,
Is that you, Miss Sosha?
Yeah. She knows,
you know, and
she's well-versed in the Douglas.
And even Miss St. Pierre and Mr. DeFonso's building, she's really good with those vendors, calling them and
God,
say, no, you gotta do better.
Yeah, yeah.
You gotta do better. We're gonna go somewhere else. And they keep, and again, that takes time. But again, if you can keep on knocking 100, 150, 200, you add enough hundreds together, you
Thousands.
get thousands, you add thousands together, you get 10,000s, and that saves a teacher, so. There's that. And then finally, a labor of love on behalf of the leadership team, the principals, and Dr. Merrick, is the bully prevention plan that you have in front of you. I think it's about 25 pages long. I've talked about it a couple times at meetings, and this came from a variety of sources. One, we looked at our current school committee policies. We looked at what buildings we're doing. We pulled from the Department of Education, and we respectfully borrowed from the Uxbridge Public Schools, who put a plan together. So here you have in front of you a bully prevention plan, and it outlines everything. My memory's a little short at this time. It outlines everything from, you know, an introduction to priority statements, to definitions, to how we're collaborating with families, to PD, to resources, to what our procedures for reporting and responding to bullying and retaliation, relationship to laws, and then the forms that we use. One of the things that's in here is that, you know, we need to look at this every year, tweak it, revise it, come back to the school committee and talk a little bit about what we did. But this here, Ms. Bergstrom talked about it when she was presenting on CPAC, but what's going on with bullying across the Commonwealth and across the nation. And this here at least has a plan for us in place for principals and families to refer to, and it outlines our process. Are any two situations the same? Absolutely not. Is it different at the elementary school than it is in the high school? Absolutely. So can you find a way to put every single situation into a document? You can't, which is why when you read a lot of our things, it's shoulds, cals, shalls, as opposed to those hard language. But I really just want to thank the leadership team for their hard work in going through this. Our school attorneys looked at it for legalese to make sure it meets things. Principals met with their the school councils to review it, and they gave some feedback, so I'm proud of the work that was done. Ms. Keegan was kind enough to, if you go to the cover page, it talks about bullying intervention, and it has this tiger jumping out of the letter D, looking like it's attacking you, but, so it's kind of an, kind of an oxymoron there, a little bit about, bullying, but you have this vicious tiger jumping at you, but, again, just wanted to present this, and just, again, for your information and your knowledge. When I get back to the office tomorrow, I will have Ms. Tibbetts posted on the website. The parents have access to it and be able to see it and look at it. So newsletter so people know that it's out and available to them. Questions?
Thank you.
I think that's a record for my 2-hour report, so we'll draw that to a conclusion for tonight.
Okay. Moving on to the school committee and subcommittee reports, the accounts payable.
Sure. So, 31 SCH 23 and 31 SCHL 23, warrant date 1/26/23 and 1/27/23, a total of 11 batches for a total dollar amount of $190,577.82. 32 SCH 23 and 32 SCHL 23, warrant date 2/2/23 and 2/3/23. That's a lot of twos. Total of 6 batches for a total dollar amount of $78,487.16. Warrant 33 SCH 23 and 33 SCHL 23, warrant date 2/9/23 and 2/10/23. A total of 8 batches and a warrant total of $195,627.30. 34 SCH 23 and 34 SCHL 23, warrant date 2/16 and 2/17, a total of 11 batches, a dollar amount of $319,577.87. And warrant 35 SCH 23 and 35 SCHL 23, warrant date 2/23/23 and 2/24/23, a total of 8 batches, a warrant total of $51,805.82. There was no concerns, no irregularities, all was well.
Thank you. Moving on to the consent agenda. Looking for approval on the February 1st, 2023 meeting minutes.
I didn't see anything.
No one has anything, and I'd be looking for a motion.
I move to approve the February 1st, 2023 school committee meeting minutes.
Beth made the motion, seconded by?
Second.
Second by Teresa. All those in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? Anyone abstained?
Abstain.
Abstained by Monique. Moving to the next one is the district handbook changes regarding student discipline.
We're going to call the next 7 sections the Miss Bennett Show, because I think she's up here for the next 7 items. I'll do with the last one.
Thank you. So in an effort to save paper, I apologize, I'll be looking at my phone a little bit here. But what we did here at the high school, and Mr. Vega, Desi Vega, did a great job really taking the lead in this, is we looked at what we had currently for our discipline in regards to the update to the MGL law. It's the Chapter 74 law. And with that being said, we revamped our whole, actually, discipline chart to organize it so like disciplines were a little more together, because before, when you looked at it, they were just kind of, you might have a phone here and then another phone issue 2 pages later. So we did a little bit of a revamp and reformatting in terms of looking at the offenses and, like I said, putting them, organizing them together. And then in taking to heart the concept of bringing in a little more social justice and understanding with the discipline. We did a lot of transformation from having detentions transitioning right into in-school suspensions or maybe even out-of-school suspensions to including a lot more community service. So you'll see here that there are still some that, irregardless, for example, an assault, like some of the top ones at the chart, those, irregardless, those are somewhat automatic in terms of the actual discipline and the suspensions and where we can go. However, you will see an example for, let's look at the first one, the smoking and the disposable vapes, for example. We have an online educational component that students need to complete if they are found to be in violation, and that is done through our detention. So it's in combination, so when they're there, they complete the online educational component. And Mr. Vega will have a conversation with the student and just, did you learn anything? Was there any processing that may have changed as a result of learning a little bit more, so on and so forth. Again, if we have a second one, we'll move more to that in-school suspension, and then if there is that third one, that would be an example of out of school. However, that online component in that detention is now the first versus an automatic in-school or out-of-school suspension. So that's an example. You'll see if you go down a couple more, theft, for example, working with 2 hours of community service for a first-time offense, and then it's a 4-hour community service. And that service is a little bit inside, could be inside the school, maybe they're working out on the fields, working with some of our maintenance, doing stuff inside the school as well, but we're also working with some of our community partners, the church, pantry, and along that line. And we're also looking at the discipline itself and trying to see how we might be able to find service that's related to the discipline. So if it's something that may have happened in the cafeteria, again, can we bring them into the cafeteria to put the service back to the school in the cafeteria? Or, the thought process of words or just not being kind, is there a way that we can bring that service back so it's addressing the matter that had to be addressed from the administration.
When you do the outside community partners for community service, is there a school staff person that's with them to supervise?
Yes. So that's either through our maintenance, through the maintenance department, or if we've had we've had some of our groups do outside community service work, and so we might have staff members, teachers, adults, whoever the advisors might be, and they would come and they would join during that time frame. So for example, we had some trail cleanup or some of the things that were happening on Saturday that they would come and help and do that. So yes. So this, we worked through this. We connected with school council on this to get their input and their insight, and so now we're here at this point. It's something that we've had probably 6 weeks now, maybe 8 weeks. I think we made that transition. It's just been a matter of time and trying to get this coordinated here. But I will say that we have discipline here, and we need to obviously implement some of these. However, I would not say that it's extensive in terms of the discipline with where we're at. There is a lot of conversation that we have in regards to behavior and expectations, and those are ongoing conversations and dialogues that we have. But in terms of really extensive conversations, or matters, we've had some, but I wouldn't say it's an overload. And I will share that that parent guardians, there is that communication home as well. Even, for things as simple as something in the cafeteria that may have happened, that dialogue and communication home does take place.
I think it's very clear as to what's going to happen. I think it's something that the community can be aware of, and I think I like the community service. I think that is more of a giving back, and I think it's more meaningful, and it looks to things with the truancy. Is that, I'm assuming that part of the restorative justice process that happens before is we look at making sure it is willful truancy and willful school avoidance in terms of that process.
Yes.
And is there like an amount of, I just know in the Commonwealth and not just in the state of Massachusetts, not just in Douglas, that there are a lot of school-related anxiety and school-related avoidance. So it's the only one that doesn't really have after one, skipping one detention or whatever. So are we just being mindful of kind of those things that are going on out there, that there are a lot of kids right now that have some school anxiety? And so I guess maybe truancy, maybe I'm taking the term and not looking at it correctly, but are we really kind of looking at those individual cases? Like, what are you defining as truancy? I guess would be my question.
Correct. I will share, we have not had a truancy yet this year.
Okay, thank you.
So let me just put that right out there. I will share in regards to the concern about the anxiety, refusal among, that's where we use Ms. Ryan with our counselors, and there is that dialogue because students along that line, that's when we were looking at the attendance data, especially early on, and okay, where is this child, what's happening? And the dialogue, whether it's with Mr. Vega, with Ms. Ryan, all of us combined with the parent, with the child, we were on top of that. Definitely at the start of the year in terms of the number of absences with our students, and that's data that we are looking at weekly in our student support team meetings, as well as, okay, where we stand with our students and have we touched base. And I will say that there is usually always an answer for that in terms of the matter or what the problem is or what's going on.
By and large, what do you think truancy? Mom and dad send your child to school, and instead of coming to Douglas, you go to Six Flags for the day, and you have fun, and you come. That's what this is.
Okay,
Yeah.
no, absolutely, okay, thank you, that helped me, because I do know that, yes, Mrs. Ryan and the people in the building are very sensitive to things going on with children, so I just wanted to, other districts are using that term, so I appreciate the clarification.
Any other discussion? Okay.
It's very easy to read.
I just had one quick question about the first page where it says assault versus fighting. And can you kind of separate the two for me for a little bit? Like, what's one versus the other?
So with fighting, so the assault is dealing more with, Paul, what's the term that I'm looking for?
Battery?
No, not assault and battery. Oh my goodness, I apologize.
Is it
So
one
usually when you think
person?
when you think of a fight, you think of two kids.
Assault is
right.
One person.
Exactly.
Assault is
Attacking.
one person
One
going
aggressor.
up.
Felony, right. Thank you. I was
Yeah.
also bringing one, so I apologize.
The assault is usually one person going after another person, and then that person being
Okay.
the victim.
Right.
Versus two kids engaging in a back and forth assault.
Okay.
fight.
A fight.
Thank you. Yeah, that's, well, that's where the differentiation is.
Moving on to the approval
Can
for
we
the
have
overnight.
we need a
trip.
motion just to accept this?
What?
Do we have a motion to accept it?
Can we make a motion, someone make a motion to accept the discipline chart?
I move to accept the discipline chart as outlined in front of me.
Teresa made the motion, seconded by?
Second.
Seconded by Beth. All those in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? Anyone abstaining? Thank you.
So the next, may I move on? So the next item was the student council, so we'll bypass that. So the next one is our DECA Club. So we are fortunate, our DECA Club has qualified for their state competition, which is being held in Boston, March 9th through 11th, 2023. This is an overnight trip to Boston, and the students will be staying at the Copley Marriott Hotel.
Good for them.
Nice.
Right?
Nice.
Right?
That's better than the Cape Cod.
So we have a total of 8 students and 1 chaperone, Mr. Bill Hillman, who is the DECA advisor, and they are leaving Thursday, March 9th, and returning on Saturday, March 11th from their competition. Transportation will be combined with another local school who's also attending, so we've coordinated that piece with the school. And the DECA Club ran a fall fundraiser. They sold candles in the fall to help offset some of these costs. And so students will be partially financing their trip. I believe it's $100 for DECA. And what we are requesting, however, is a transfer of funds from the school store account to the DECA account to help assist with, there's still a gap. and we
That's
want-
coming up.
What's next?
Oh, yeah.
She's doing both.
It was the other way around.
She's
Oh,
doing
they're
both.
two separate things. They're two totally separate things.
We're going to do 2 different motions, but
They are. So with this one, we're looking for the acceptance of the overnight trip to the state competition at the Heinz Convention, March 9th through 11th, 2023.
Yeah, I'll read that correctly. So it's moved to approve the Douglas High School DECA Club overnight trip to DECA State Competition at the Heinz Convention Center, March 9 through the 11th, 2023.
Julie made the motion, seconded by?
Second.
Was it Beth? Sorry.
She beat me too.
Motion made by Julie, seconded by Beth. All those in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? Anyone abstaining?
Thank you. Well, so going on to the next one, because I was reading the financial impact on that one. So the DHS, the school store, which is known as the Tiger's Den, does have funds to help support student activities, various student activities. And so with the DECA Club attending the state conference and trying to keep financial costs at a minimum for the participants, this request is a transfer of $1,000 from the school store, from the Tiger's Den, to the DHS DECA Club to support the state competition trip.
And I do want to, this is the first time we've ever done this, ever.
Yes.
Okay, so I did check with the auditors on this, and, Tara and I met, we looked at it, because she's been looking at the student activity funds and all that, and it has, it does have a balance in there. We had a very good discussion regarding utilization of the funds, and there are some funds that have been sitting there, so, and it's for students, and this is a great use of that, of those monies.
Sweet.
I move to approve the use of up to $1,000 from the DHS School Store Student Activity Fund account for the DHS DECA Club State Competition Expedition.
Motion made by Julie, seconded by?
I didn't even pronounce it
Teresa.
right.
Seconded by Teresa. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Anyone abstaining? Thanks.
It's supposed to say expenditures.
Okay, and so this last request is an approval for a purchase of a freezer for the school store. So there's been a lot of work done in the Tiger's Den by the students to just analyze what to sell, what can be sold, and there's a whole variety from great clothing all the way down to some goodies as well, and some food. And so the DHS Business Student Manager, who operates the Tiger Den store, as part of that management group, they've requested, they want to introduce some frozen food products options to the school store. So it's not something that is sold in our cafeteria. They would be different options, because we do have some frozen food sold in there. So it would be something different. And so obviously there would be a freezer that would be needed to keep these products. So the cost of the freezer is just over $1,000, and the monies, again, would be allocated from the existing school store account. What's kind of neat about the freezer that is being requested is that it's portable. So it can be used in this school store, and we did get approval in terms of voltage and everything, so, it's all safe in the school store and having that piece, but it is something that is portable as well. So if that was something that we wanted to bring out for an outdoor event or something along that line for the school store, that it could be used in that manner.
You looking for a motion?
I move to approve the purchase of a freezer in the amount of up to $1,016 for the school store. The funding source for this purchase is the DHS School Store Student Activity Account.
Motion made by Monique, seconded by?
Teresa.
Seconded by Teresa. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Anyone abstaining? Thanks.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much.
And the second or third to last thing on the agenda is the creation of a pay rate for Project Lead the Way required courses. This year, we started our first year of Project Lead the Way. We're looking to expand and build upon it. Any teacher, before they're allowed to teach a Project Lead the Way course, needs to take a 2-week course on their own. Those courses are happening 2 different ways. They're either happening online or they're happening over the summer. As I came to you about a year ago, we were the last school in the Valley to adopt Project Lead the Way. One of the things that happens is that teachers are going over the summer on their own time. We're also the only school in the Valley that's not compensating teachers for over the summer and on nights and weekends taking the courses. So we, and they're required course. You can't teach, you can't run the program unless you take the course. So we went and we looked around at what area schools were doing, and this is consistent with what it is. So the proposal is to approve an hourly rate of $35 an hour for the required course time the teachers are taking. For the most part, courses are 10 days, they're 8 hours a course. At the $35 an hour, it would come to $2,800 per course per teacher. So in short, if we want to continue running the program, we have to send the teachers to the training. The teachers are going over the summer. We have to compensate them for that time over the summer to take the course. So we have some grant money this year that should be able to fund part of it, and then from there we have to transfer over to the operating.
Nobody's got any questions? Are we looking for a motion?
Move to approve a rate of $35 an hour for any teacher who is assigned by the district to attend a PLTW core training course during non-school hours. This rate is limited to and will cover only the length and hours of the required course, and travel time is excluded.
Motion made by Beth, seconded by?
Teresa.
Monique and Teresa, seconded by? All those in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? Anyone abstained? Thank you. Next is moving over to the school
Thank you.
business and operations manager's report for transfers and reclassifications.
Oh, yes, I do have a 3-hour report I'd like to provide. No, I do have some transfers and reclasses tonight, though. I did finally get to them. So I do have the general fund transfers request number 7. This is basically the one that I've been trying to do for quite some time, going through the entire budget. There are still a few left to do, but basically that's all that is covering, taking the, where we have money, covering the deficits throughout the entire budget. Do you know if anybody had any questions? And for those of you that might be new to this, because I used to be able to do these like regularly throughout the year, but the last 2 years it has not been able to be done, so this is just regularly done. It's just that, this has taken some time, so if this is the first time you're seeing it, that's basically all this is. It's not even a required thing, but Jean and I would like to have that clean report, so, yeah. So, any questions?
Nobody's got any questions? Be looking for a motion?
I move to approve the FY 2023 general fund budget transfer request number 7.
Motion made by Teresa, seconded by?
Julie?
Seconded by Julie. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Anyone abstaining? Okay.
Thank you very much. And I have FY 2023 reclassifications, number 6. And what all of this is for the copy machine leases. As you'll see, the program code is an 8. So it was put in an old number, an 8 number. It is still unfortunately accessible in Munis. And it should have been the 1 for basically regular ed, to be counted towards per pupil expenditures for regular ed. So that's why I bolded the 1, although this doesn't pick up the bold. So the Jean would pick up on it. Otherwise, the number is exactly the same. That's all it is.
You looking for a motion?
Oh, I just saw it finally.
I move to approve the FY 2023 reclassification request number 6.
Motion made by Teresa, seconded by? Seconded by Julie. All those in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? Anyone abstaining? Any topics not anticipated tonight? So, we do need to do the superintendent's evaluation. So I would say by April 5th, if you could have your presentation to us.
Yep.
That gives me enough time before the elections. May 3rd would be my last school committee meeting that I'd be on if I don't get reelected. So we have to have it closed out because superintendent evaluation needs to be put on the calendar for May 3rd. Does that work for everybody?
That's fine.
Okay.
Do you want me to present on the April meeting, and then you'll review and discuss at the May meeting?
Yep. Give you your final results on the May 3rd. So I think that works for everybody because we have time in between. So if that works for everybody, that would be the schedule that we would follow.
Thanks for thinking of that.
I know. Anything else? Any topics not anticipated? No executive session needed for this session? I'd be doing a motion to adjourn.
I move to adjourn the March 1st, 2023 school committee meeting at, come on, phone, you can do it.
25. What was it? 9:25.
9:25.
Motion made by Teresa, seconded by
Monique.
Monique. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.